Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com. The following program is a production of the Barroom Network. It is intended for all audiences.
Doug Buffone.
This defense sucks. This is moronic.
John Buffone.
If your best run plays are coming off end-arounds, there's a problem.
Doug was behind the microphone first. He never held back.
Very difficult to score when your offense is on the bench. When your defense is out there giving up 70, 80, 70, 64-yard drives.
Now, it's his nephew, John, and there's no holding this Buffone back either.
An offensive-minded coach that's running an offense that got 9.5 yards. A beaten-up defense that isn't necessarily performing in key situations.
I've had it. I have had it. I want somebody to get kicked in the ass.
How many games can you rattle off that involve the team running the ball 7 times and they win? I can't think of any.
I don't mind you getting beat. I got my ass whipped many times. But I tell you, I took somebody down with me.
Because Bears fans wanted to believe in the worst way that Chicago had a stable, competitive franchise. And this is what we got.
It's Buffone 55, the John Buffone Show.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Buffone 55, a fast-paced approach at breaking down the Chicago Bears. I am your host, John Buffone, and once again, filling in for Alyssa Barbieri is Aldo Gandia. Of course, our continued thoughts are with Alyssa as she continues to tend to some family issues. But Aldo, 3 weeks in a row, how's your back? How are your hips? You okay, buddy? This
The workload is unbelievable, John. But this one tonight is a special one, so I can handle it, man. This is going to be a great show.
A lot of good stuff to break down, not just the game itself with the Las Vegas Raiders, but a lot of big news. Justin Fields, the starter for the Bears moving forward, something that we did not think we were going to hear in the foreseeable future, but we're going to break all of that down. We have a great guest lined up to help us better understand the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that started out the year 3-0, but just in case this is someone's first time ever listening to Buffone 55. Aldo, I need you to give us a rundown because we're kind of changing the order a little bit tonight, but let them know how it works.
That's right. To accommodate our guests, we are moving B55 to the first segment of the show, and that's where I ask John 5 questions, and he has 55 seconds to respond to each question. 55, of course, is in honor of John's uncle, Doug Buffone, who played 15 seasons for the Chicago Bears and was a boyhood hero of mine as well. And then we'll go to Buffone's Basement. That'll be segment 2, where John and I will have an open discussion about all the hot topics affecting the Bears. And then in segment 3, we've got a great guest lined up. Your boy Q, who is the host of Locked On Raiders. He is going to be here, and he's going to give us a detailed explanation about all of what's going on with the Las Vegas Raiders, position by position. That's going to be really good. We had him on last year. He was a great guest.
Oh, for sure. That's going to be a good interview.
Yeah. So are you ready to do B55?
I mean, I got to start right out of the gates here. I usually get to warm up a little bit, but you know what? Let's go. I'll risk a pulled hammy. Let's go.
All right. So there was obviously something different about the Bears offense last Sunday against the Lions. It took some serious work for the Chicago media to finally pull it out of Matt Nagy at the press conference that Bill Lazor was calling the plays. So, John, do you believe that Matt Nagy will actually see this through and let Lazor call the plays for the remainder of the season? You got 55 seconds. Take it away.
Although all I see is a little kid in the corner screaming, "Look at me, look at me." He is on this never-ending quest to prove that he is the Messiah of the Chicago Bears. It bothered him so much to acknowledge that the team played well with someone else calling plays. He needs to prove that it's his decision-making, his vision, his plan that's going to make this team succeed. And I guess I get it. He once again failed at the thing that he wants to be the best at. So he needs to legitimize his presence by reminding everyone that he's the head coach and nothing would get done without him. Yeah, Matt, we know. We're well aware of the effect you have on this football team. But why should I believe that he's actually going to stick with this? They played better under Lazor's play calling last year, and Nagy still took the duties back anyway. So this is his show. It doesn't matter. I'm starting to believe he'd rather fail his way than succeed someone else's way.
Boy, it's hard to argue with that point, with that speculation, if you will, on your part, because he was really seeking credit Sunday right after the Bears. A huge win for the Chicago Bears organization, and he was simply seeking credit for a good portion of that press conference. It was one of the oddest, most awkward press conferences I've ever witnessed as a Chicago Bear fan. Would you agree with that?
100%. If you have to tell everybody how important you are, you're not very important, because he made it a point. He could have stopped the answer at Bill called a great game. That's all you needed to say. But no, you got to tell everybody that it starts with me and I have a great opportunity to say, yes, I like this, or no, I don't like that. And ultimately I'm the head coach. And as a head coach, it's important that I felt great. Nobody cares. Do you think anyone cares? Do you think if the Bears go out there and win a football game, I care that Matt Nagy was really vital in saying yes this way, no that way? Win the football game. You're the head coach. I don't care what you have your fingers in. I don't care what you're meddling in. You're the head freaking coach. We get it. You're the most important guy on the staff. You don't have to keep trying to legitimize that.
Yep. Chubbs says that he at least said all the right things today. So apparently he really
who wrote it for him? Who wrote it for him?
That is right. All right. Let's go to question number 2. Staying with the head coach, Matt Nagy. He said on Monday that if healthy, Andy Dalton remains the Bears starting quarterback. But that got totally sideswiped today when he announced that Justin Fields will be the starter moving forward. What do you think, Matt Nagy? Why do you think Matt Nagy had a change of heart? You got 55 seconds, my friend.
I don't think Matt Nagy had a change of heart. I think someone up top or within the coaching staff said, hey, Matt, this ain't about you. Play the guy we invested a bunch of draft capital in, and we saw what he's capable of when he has a competent play caller. So step aside and let the adults work. What I think you're seeing is a head coach that was in panic mode. He's running out of things to control, and he's running out of ways to prove that to everyone that he thinks on a different level. Look, he can't call plays anymore, so he needed to be the decider on personnel, and Andy Dalton was the guy he wanted in the offseason, so he needed to be the guy that led the Bears to victory in 2021, because honestly, who would it have benefited to have Andy Dalton back in there? It would have benefited Matt Nagy and Andy Dalton. Why would you do that to Justin Fields? Why mess up the chemistry he's building with the receivers? Why get rid of his first team reps? I'm glad somebody finally put their foot down and say, Matt, we're not going to eat your BS anymore. We got to try to do something different.
You know what's interesting is Jeremy Fowler over at ESPN reported that there are still people inside of Hallis Hall who think that Dalton gives the Bears the best chance to win. And so I wanted to ask you that. Do you believe that Dalton gives the Bears a better chance to win than Justin Fields, the rookie?
No, because I think that if the Bears get behind, they need quick strike, explosive points sometimes. Andy Dalton can't do that. Andy Dalton can sustain a drive. Andy Dalton can give you a good 9-play drive and get you a field goal. Andy Dalton can win you a game. But if the Bears are down 10 points in the fourth quarter, or the Bears are down 7 points late in the fourth quarter, do you want the guy who can flick the ball down the field 70 yards at Darnell Mooney and put it right in the button? Or do you want a guy that can keep hitting 5-yard curls? I want Justin Fields for his mobile ability, that he can use his legs. I want him for his arm where he can throw it downfield. And we saw what he's capable of. We saw some of those incredible throws that I didn't see from Andy Dalton. I saw a kid that finally got a good game plan around him, finally got some first team reps, and he shows that he can give the Bears the best chance. If you just keep shoving Andy Dalton down our throats and keep giving him first team reps and stifling Justin Fields' progression as a rookie, then yeah, Andy Dalton might give you a better chance. But really, what chance is that? You invested it really heavily in this kid. Let him play out with his potential. Are the Bears Super Bowl contenders this year? I don't think so. So let the quarterback go through his progression, and the next year he can be a real superstar.
Your good buddy Roy says only the lunch lady at the diner would think and say something like that. That often gives them a better chance to win. One good thing is that Justin Fields at his press conference today said that Andy Dalton called him yesterday because both quarterbacks were informed of the decision yesterday, and that Andy called him and told him that he to embrace this moment and he was going to support him. So that is great leadership and team and sportsmanship from Andy Dalton. So that's great to see.
No, and I don't want this is not a referendum on Andy Dalton. I've been saying this since they signed Andy Dalton. I feel bad because Andy Dalton was going to get all the vitriol and all of the negative comments thrown at him from Bears fans. He's a nice guy. He seems to be a really good teammate. He's that Nick Foles-ish kind of guy, which they already had Nick Foles. Why'd they bring in another one? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I don't want this to be about Andy Dalton. His character, he's a high character guy. He's a professional. People like Andy Dalton. And gosh darn it, he's good enough. But I just don't want him as a starting quarterback right now. What's the old SNL skit? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Is that what? Listen, I think Andy Dalton is a good dude to have in the locker room. There's a lot of good dudes that I don't want starting for the Chicago Bears though. So let's just try to differentiate the two.
All right, we will. Hang on your orders. Okay, question number 3. Oh boy, it looked like a tragedy was occurring. And right in front of my eyes, I was at Soldier Field late in the game. Running back David Montgomery was laying on the field, writhing in pain, grasping his knee. And preliminary tests indicate that Montgomery avoided an ACL tear. He will be out 4 to 5 weeks. Are you confident enough in the backs the Bears currently have on this roster, or do you need to kick the tires on someone on the outside like Todd Gurley or Marlon Mack? What do you think about those guys? The clock starts when you start.
Look, I think they actually have the horses to hold down the fort until Montgomery gets back. Damian Williams showed a little shake and some movement with his opportunity, and it seems like that quad injury isn't going to be a big deal. That guy can catch the ball and tote the ball between the tackles, and I think that Khalil Herbert is a promising rookie that can hit the hole and really make some plays. He's shown some flashes. He probably won't be in pass protection very much, but he has shown ability to run the football. Also, let's not forget, Tariq Cohen could potentially come back around week 7 after he's off the PUP list. That would be a much-needed shot in the arm as well. I don't think they need to go to the scrap heap and look for a free agent that doesn't know the system. I certainly don't think they need to invest any more draft capital in trading for a rental player. They just used a 6th-rounder on Jakeem Grant, so let's try to keep some draft picks for 2022. You can't replace David Montgomery, but you can use a collection of guys to try to hold serve until he's back.
Yeah, my only worry with that is that the running game is just going so well with David, and he is so good at breaking tackles. Let's face it, the offensive line is still in need of repair. But the great thing about David Montgomery is that he would be hit behind the line of scrimmage and he still pick up positive yards. I'm not sure Damian Williams can do that kind of work. So we might be seeing more I formations, more double and triple tight end formations just to help Damian Williams and Khalil Herbert to get that running game going. So again, you on Gurley and Mack and those guys, you say no, huh?
No, I just don't think, because if Montgomery can be back in 4 or 5 weeks, you don't trade for somebody. They're already out a 1st-rounder next year and now a 6th-rounder next year. But I think that they can try to make it work with who they have. Maybe you see more J.P. Holton at fullback. Everyone's talking about how great of a blocker Cole Kmet's turning into, so I guess that's what we're going to go with. And so he can potentially be in there for the run game. So like you said, Damian Williams is not David Montgomery. They don't have anyone with that skill set that can constantly break tackles. The running game is not going to be what it was with him in there. It's pretty obvious. But I think that they have some players in there that they can put in situations that can get them some yards.
Yep. All we need is improved blocking, and that running game should shine. All right, let's go to question number 4. Through 4 games, the Bears defense appears to be improving. They lead the league in sacks and have kept the team in most games while the offense is finding its footing. So with that being said, who is your defensive MVP through 4 games, John Buffone? And the clock starts now.
Oh, this might sound crazy, but maybe it doesn't sound crazy. It's Robert Quinn. And if you would have told me back in August that Robert Quinn would be my defensive MVP in October, I would have asked, what's in your cup, buddy? Because look, I know I said Robert Quinn could be the bounce back player for the defense this year, but I kind of said that tongue in cheek because the bar was set so low from last year. But this guy has been possessed. He's getting off the snap so fast, getting around the edge, and leads the team in sacks with 4.5. That's, by the way, more than doubles last year's totals. But he's a big reason why this defense continues to put pressure on the quarterback, a big reason why this team leads the league in sacks with 15. Credit Sean Desai for his scheme, but also give a ton of credit to Robert Quinn for not just taking the money and running. Dude could have just packed it in after last year and put it in cruise control, but he's out there actually earning his money, and maybe he isn't such an easy cut candidate come June of 2022.
There you go. Roy wants you to reconsider. He's asking you to consider Eddie Jackson.
For what? I don't think we're going to reconsider Eddie Jackson for MVP. We'll talk about taking the money and running. That's for a different show, different topic. But no, but you got to look at this defense and say, wow, Robert Quinn is actually making a big impact on these games. That pass rush with Khalil Mack is finally showing why they put so much money into that. You're finally seeing some dividends on that.
Yeah, I did a mea culpa on the Dan and Aldo show because I thought Quinn's career was just about over, but clearly it's not. And then when Quinn met the media Sunday after the game, he openly said that, yes, last year he was having some problems off the field. He sought advice from friends and family and spiritual counselors and so forth, and he got his issues cleared up, and it doesn't matter what they are, but he's just in a better space now, and he looks tremendous. It's like you said, he was jumping off the line of scrimmage. You tweeted that out probably as fast or faster than anyone else. So it's really good to see him playing primetime football, man.
Yeah, and what you're seeing is people feeding off that now. Khalil Mack getting in on the action and being able to put so much pressure on the quarterback is taking some of that pressure off of the DBs. Obviously, Jalen Johnson, is a stud, but taking some of that pressure off of Kindle Vildor and Duke Shelley, that's paramount because they're not going to have great games every week in and week out. But if the quarterback only has a second and a half to throw the ball, it's going to make their jobs a lot easier as well.
Excellent. All right, let's go to question number 5. I'm really, really interested in hearing your response to this question. Now, despite our frustration through 4 games, the Bears have won games we anticipated they would win and lost games that we anticipated they would lose. Normally, we'd say the Bears played a quarter of the season already, but the extra game makes the math way too hard for me, John. But anyways, you said the Bears could top out at 9 wins this season. Do you believe that possibility is still on the table? I'll turn the clock off, man, and I just want to hear what you have got to say.
Oh, we should probably take a look at the schedule. Call me Admirable Akbar because this feels like a trap. I did predict 2-2 up to this point, but we are coming up on the game that some people predicted would start a 6-game losing streak for the Bears. So, and if you look over the schedule, they got Vegas this week, then Green Bay, then they're at Tampa, then San Francisco, then at Pittsburgh, and then finally Baltimore after the bye week. That is a gauntlet. Look, I think they can beat Vegas, and I said before the season, they're going to beat Pittsburgh. They better beat Pittsburgh. But I can see them losing 4 of the next 6 games, which would ironically make them 4-6. So then you look at the final 7 games at Detroit. Okay, that could be a win. Then Arizona, which I thought could be a win before the season, and now they're number 1 in a lot of people's power rankings. And then at Green Bay, no. Home against Minnesota, maybe a win. Then at Seattle, don't love that. Then home against the Giants and finish the season on the road at Minnesota. Now, a lot can change, and Fields could get red hot under Lazer's play calling, and It's still really early in the season, but unfortunately, I'm starting to temper my expectations a little bit. I'm seeing more of 7-10 and 8-9 rather than 9-8. But that being said, there is potential. It is still really early in. And every other year you would say we're only a quarter of the year into the season. We're not even a quarter of the way into the season because they got an extra game this year. So the season is nowhere near a wash quite yet. The game against Vegas, though, this is going to be important. So we'll see how this plays out. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Aldo and I are heading down to Buffone's basement. You're listening to Buffone 55 here on the Barroom Network.
Barroom Network presents two fired up Bears fans. They are ready to rumble on the Bear Debate.
Welcome back to Buffone 55 here on the Barroom Network. It's time to head to Buffone's basement where we get real casual in here. Although I want to start off with the biggest news of the day. Obviously, Justin Fields being named the starter for the Chicago Bears moving forward. I wanted to get your reaction on that because this is kind of not – everyone was slamming the Bears and Matt Nagy earlier this week saying, how could you possibly say Andy Dalton when healthy is the starter and then do an about face and say, nah, never mind, we're putting the young kid in anyway. So what was your reaction to that news?
I was a little bit surprised. I thought this whole guise of Dalton being the number one guy would still continue for another week or two. But clearly there is something going on at Hallis Hall. I truly believe that last week, after the horrific loss to the Cleveland Browns, and the team had all of these meetings, that a lot of fingers were being pointed at Matt Nagy, not only for his play calling, not only for his leadership, but also because he was playing this game of Dalton being the number one quarterback, and it was impacting the locker room. And so I think that was probably the biggest reason why this decision was made now and was made after the Tuesdays when everybody gets together for meetings, the general manager, the coach, the coordinators and assistant coaches. I think the topic came up again, and there's the possibility that the players' coaches are saying Justin needs to be in. And if you're getting that kind of pushback from the players, even though they have a lot of respect for Andy Dalton, the head coach better follow suit or have a really good reason why he is going to stick to his guns and have the red rifle shooting blanks or shooting whatever. So I think that's really what's going on. And if I can add one other point, I think that Bill Lazor could be leading this kind of revolt. I mean, he was the first one to say Justin Fields is ready to go. He was ready to go out of training camp. And then he sort of again threw Matt Nagy under the bus with some of the play calling responses and how things are done and so forth. So it's a very awkward situation. There might be a power struggle going on at Hallis Hall. And if that's the case, Matt Nagy is losing it.
You're right. And Bill Lazor was one of the first people to kind of give those subtle comments about how he maybe didn't agree with Justin Fields not being the starting quarterback and the play calling. But Bill Lazor needs to be the play caller for this football team. Matt Nagy should be the head coach of this football team. Well, I don't think he should be head coach, but he needs to act like the head coach of the Chicago Bears. And so this power struggle is BS, because let the guy who put out a great game plan for Justin Fields, let him keep calling plays and quit talking about the collaboration. And what's great is that we all get together and we all do this, and here's a big bowl of word soup, hope you don't choke on it. Just be the head coach. That's all we're asking. Be the head coach. Do you think it makes you any less of a man that you're not the play caller? I mean, he might, though. I mean, you're shaking your head, Aldo, and you're probably right. He does probably feel like, if I'm not the head coach and the play caller, then I'm not doing it. He's going to stomp his feet and take his ball and go home, because they brought me in here to revolutionize the offense, and they won't let me be the play caller anymore. Blah, 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 blah. They're being mean to me. I'm so tired of it. Just win the damn football game. So this power struggle, usually I think the higher ups would have Matt Nagy's back. I think they're done having Matt Nagy's back. I think after that Cleveland game, you're right. People that normally would say, you know what, just let Matt Nagy let him do his thing, are no longer saying that. They're saying, Matt, go out there, be an adult. And he may have acted like an adult today, but he also had a PR person go out and clarify comments for him before. Do you guys remember that a couple weeks ago, where a PR person had to come out and clarify his comments? You don't think there's a PR person in his freaking ear before that saying, this is what you're going to say, and if you don't, get the hell out of here?
Absolutely. The other thing about that Sunday press conference, he was asked by one of the reporters, this has had to be one of the toughest weeks of your career, because, people were talking about you, and you were, coming off that horrific loss to the Browns, and a lot of people pointing fingers and so forth. And he had a somewhat emotional response to that. He said, during times like this, you know who your friends are and you know who your friends aren't. And that, I thought, was very telling. And if you saw the body language in Matt Nagy, it clearly sounded to me like a guy who has gone through heck the last week or so. Sometimes when you believe that you are really doing the right thing and that you're doing something that you're passionate about, and everyone around you says you're wrong, that can really upset the internal apple cart, if you will. And I think that's what's been going on with him. Chubbs has been in the chat room a number of times giving praise to Matt Nagy. And this is Chubbs is somebody who's not a big fan of Matt Nagy, but giving praise to Matt Nagy for at least making the admission today and saying all the right things. So perhaps Matt Nagy is going to take a step forward. Let's hope, and really become the head coach we'd love to see this team have.
I'm not gonna get hurt like that again, though, Aldo. Remember when he gave up play calling last year, and we're like, oh wow, Matt Nagy finally putting his ego aside and letting Bill Lazor call the plays. That lasted 3 weeks? And we're just supposed to just take his word for what it is this week, because they're holding his feet to the fire again. It took a 6-game losing streak last year and the team on the verge of collapse for him to put his ego aside and be an adult and do the right thing. He didn't do the right thing because he wanted to. He had to. And I think it's the same situation this year. He has to. And who's to say that in 3 weeks you don't see Matt Nagy poking his nose back into that Denny's menu, saying, "Oh no, we got to go with the Grand Slam. Forget the moon over Miami. We got to go with this." No, you can't trust somebody who has shown you that he can't be trusted. I'm not going to just keep saying, "Oh, well, he stepped up and he did the right thing." Okay, but that you can say that. Don't tell me. Show me. And then I'll believe that you're being the adult. You can say, and he's really good at just talking. We've known time and time again, he's really good at talking. He can say this and he can say that, and we collaborate and we do all this and we do all that. Show me. I don't care about what you say anymore.
Well, we do care about what our next guest is going to say. I got to tell you, when we had him on 2 years ago before the London game, I was so impressed with his analysis, and I sent him a message and say, I've been in this business of broadcasting and radio and television since, oh my goodness, I hate to say it, but since the 1970s, I've been earning a buck at this. And this guy is really good at what he does. He's a future star. It's all yours, John, your boy Q and John. Take it away, guys.
Hey, Q, how you doing, buddy? Appreciate you being on.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. After that kind of introduction, man, I appreciate being on. And I'll tell you this, I'm a big fan of Moons Over Miami. So that took me back. I might go eat at Denny's tonight now.
Yeah, we're trying everything we can to get a sponsorship around here. So if I gotta work it into a bit, I gotta do what I gotta do.
There you go.
All right, Q, I want to talk about this upcoming Vegas game, and because I feel like this is kind of a pivotal game, not just for the Bears, but potentially for the Raiders as well, because they started off the season 3-0, and a lot of people were let down with that performance on Monday night against the Chargers. So what can you say about this team? Are they capable or living up to those expectations that 3-0 brought with them, or are they going to come back to reality and they're just going to be a middle of the pack team? What are expectations over in Vegas right now?
Well, that's actually been the conversation. That's a great question, and that's something we won't have the answer to until we see it on Sunday at Allegiant Stadium. I think a character of this team is going to be told by how they bounce back. I mean, they were embarrassed, as you mentioned, man. Monday night was not a good showing. The Chargers had their way with them. Joey Bosa came away talking a little trash about the quarterback, and that's fine. I mean, it's football, whatever. No feelings hurt. It's just get back on the horse and do it. But, teams of the past for the Raiders have allowed games to beat them twice. Like one loss will beat them twice. Last year against Kansas City, perfect example, Sunday Night Football, they lost. And then all of a sudden it was like bing, bing, bing. It was like a snowball effect. Can this team flush it on a short week, throw it away, and then get back out there and get back to winning ways? And, oh, by the way, a guy that used to be in your locker room, and Khalil Mack is coming back to town. Derek Carr's buddy talked about him great in great detail today in the media session. I mean, there's a lot of emotions at stake in this game. Of course, the Raiders don't want to get embarrassed by Khalil, and of course, Khalil wants to embarrass the Raiders. I mean, there's so many things that are going to play a factor in this game, but I think you hit it on the head. That's the theme of the game and the day. Can the Raiders bounce back and be that 3-0 team, or was that a mirage? And are they really, like you mentioned, a middle of the pack team?
I think the Raiders are maybe it's either or, but the Raiders are a great encapsulation of their quarterback, or their quarterback is a great encapsulation of the team. Because for years, when John Gruden got brought in, they say, I don't know if Derek Carr is his guy. I don't know if this is the quarterback he wants. I think he likes Mariota. I think that's where they're going to go. So what is the feeling with Carr right now? Is he finally, quote, John Gruden's quarterback? Is he ingrained into the Raiders starting quarterback position, or what's his status with the Raiders?
He's the guy. There's no question about it. Now, I'll say this. His contract is going to be coming up pretty soon, so they got to make a decision on what they want to do as far as how much they want to pay him. But John Gruden's system is very difficult to understand. It's not something that a rookie's going to go in there and just pick up. And there's not a guy out there that, hey, let's go make a move, for. I don't see them in the walls there in Henderson saying that's a possibility. Derek Carr's been with Gruden now 4 years. He's continued to get better each and every year. It was funny, just 4 days ago, before the debacle in L.A. against the Chargers, there was Raider fans calling the radio station and calling my podcast saying, hey, this guy's in line to be the MVP. He's an MVP, Derek Carr. Then all of a sudden, one bad game, and it's like, get rid of him. He stinks. It's like, it's so funny how the ebbs and flows go of a regular football season. The emotions are so high. I just think that it's time for him to get back on the horse and go out there and play a game against a very tough opponent with a really strong defense. And they're playing at home. Chicago Bears fans travel well, as you know. Plus, there's a lot of Bears fans here in Las Vegas. So, I mean, it's going to be a heck of an environment. I'm not saying that the Bears fans are going to overpower the Raider fans. I don't see that happening. As a guy that's been in Allegiant Stadium multiple times this year, Raider Nation is very loud and proud, but I know that the Bears fans will represent. So it's going to be a heck of an environment. Derek Carr, without a doubt, is the guy. I mean, and he's the one who makes everything go. He's the coach on the field as far as John Gruden's offense. He knows what Gruden's looking for, and he's playing really good ball, by the way. If it was for having a better offensive line play in the first half, that game might not be the same way that it was on Monday night. And you saw he even made a comeback in the second half, just fell a little short. So I'm pretty pleased with what I'm seeing, and I feel like the coaching staff is pretty pleased with what they're seeing as well.
You brought up the atmosphere in Vegas, and I asked this question with all sincerity just because the team hasn't been around that long. But Is there a Is there an actual big time home field advantage in Vegas? Because, a lot of that time you go to Vegas and you just see what's in town that week. And you're like,
Right.
oh, great, that so-and-so is playing over here. Oh, there's a Raider game or whatever. So is there an actual big time Raider Nation that shows up and makes that? Now it's probably nothing like the LA Chargers where every game's an away game for them. But in Vegas, as soon as the schedules came out, a lot of Bears fans ran to Twitter saying, oh, we're in Vegas this year, getting my tickets. Everybody wants to go to Vegas. Everybody wants everyone wants to make a weekend out of it. So what is the atmosphere like? And is there a true home field advantage there for the Raiders?
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's a great question. And that's something that a lot of Raider fans wondered before it ever got started, before they actually saw it. And then unfortunately, last year, as we all know, you didn't see it at all because of COVID. So that was a big mystery. Is it going to be a big Raider Nation there? Well, I'm here to tell you that Raider Nation is there. They're loud and they're proud, and they get into town early if they're not from town. And if they are from town, then they're there. They're excited about the team. They're excited about what they've seen so far. They've had 2 overtime games that have gone down to the wire while they're there, which, is heart attack central. But either way, when they come out with a victory, of course, you love it. So it's been a lot of fun. On my radio show, I actually have a lot of people from town that call in, and some are Steeler fans, some are Niner fans, some are other teams fans, and they're saying, look, I enjoy this team being here in town. I'm slowly but surely coming over to the Silver and Black. I'm going to be there on Sunday, or I was there on Sunday. And so I think that even from fans that weren't necessarily Raider fans, because they have embraced the community as well as they have. And I mean, when I say embrace the community, they've gone to the high schools, they've gone to the colleges, they've gone everywhere trying to be a factor and try to be a player in the community. I think that was smart. And so they're fully embraced here in Las Vegas. And yeah, there'll be Bears fans there, just like Miami Dolphin fans. They traveled well. They were there. They were loud. You can hear them on the broadcast, but it was nothing like 3rd and long when the Raiders were on defense. All of a sudden you hear the roar of the crowd. You got Bruce Buffer firing up the crowd before this game even gets started. I mean, I'll tell you this, it's Las Vegas. There's no mistaking. It's Las Vegas. There's a show every single week, but then you sprinkle in LA, you sprinkle in the Bay, you sprinkle in fans from all over. It's a great event, and it's exactly that, an event each and every home game.
Yeah, whether they're in Oakland or LA or in Vegas, the Raider Nation travels well, and they have staked their claim in a number of locations. So they got Raider fans all over the place. I want to talk about some of the weapons that they have on the receiving core, because the Bears have been holding up pretty well with their defensive backs. Duke Shelley playing pretty well in the slot, but some of that has to do with scheme. Kendall Vildor also playing pretty well. Jalen Johnson turning into a stud, but a kind of a mixed bag when it comes to the Raiders wide receivers with Henry Ruggs, Hunter Renfrow, and Brian Edwards. What can Bears fans expect? Because I think there's some differentiating skill sets within those wide receivers.
Well, it's funny. This is actually a year that all those guys are stepping up and playing in a major way. It used to be the Darren Waller show, and then Hunter Renfrow would do some dirt, underneath and come up on 3rd down and make a big play here and there. But I'll tell you, man, Henry Ruggs from last year to this year, night and day. He gained 13 pounds of muscle over the offseason. Derek Carr's been trusting him down the field. He's been coming up with some big-time plays. So he's been involved in the action early and often. Brian Edwards, he's been fun. He got a lot of training camp buzz. Even people were talking about, he reminds me of T.O. and this and that. I'm not going to go there and say he's a Hall of Famer, but I'll say this. With his size and with him being healthy, he's a heck of a wide receiver. He catches the ball with his hands. You know what I mean? He's not a guy that lets it get to his body. He's got like vice grips, and he catches it with his hands. So he does a great job with that. He's a weapon. Hunter Renfrow he's a pro's pro. He even made a play basically on defense on Monday night that was a heck of a play, a breakup of not a trick play, but just a blown assignment by the Raiders. He came up and diagnosed it and broke it up. Football player. He's just a smart football player. And then Darren Waller, of course, he's that guy. So the beautiful thing about the Raiders offense this year, if Derek Carr has the time to actually throw the ball like he did not have in the first half of the Monday Night Football game, there's so many guys that could beat you. It's not just one guy that you can key in on. It's all those guys. They all play a role. So I think that with the work that they did in the training camp to to develop that trust. Derek Carr talks about it all the time. I trust those guys. I can throw the 50-50 ball and go and believe that Henry Ruggs is going to beat a guy. And I believe that Bryan Edwards is going to beat a guy. Where before he didn't do that, so he just checked it down to a running back or forced it to Darren Waller or look for Hunter Renfrow. Now he has those other two guys that, like I said, they're not all pros yet. They're not Pro Bowlers yet. They're not that, but they're improving. You see the improvement each and every week. So they're definitely a dangerous receiving core right now for the Silver and Black.
Moving over to the run game, the Bears have given up spots of big runs and let some teams run on them throughout the season a little bit. Also, a mixed bag in the backfield. What do you got? Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, and even Peyton Barber back there contributing. What can the Bears fans expect out of the run game with the Raiders?
Well, I think Raider Nation just their ears perked up when you said that the Bears have struggled against the run a little bit because, man, the Raiders haven't been able to run the ball. They just haven't. And they went up against the Chargers last week. Chargers were giving up 170 yards on the ground, and they got like 50. They have not ran the ball very well. Josh Jacobs was banged up for 2 games. He was out. Peyton Barber actually filled a bigger role than Kenyon Drake, which was strange to me because Kenyon Drake was brought in to be the 1-2 punch with Josh Jacobs. He hasn't done very well as far as running through the between the tackles and blocking. He hasn't done a very good job blocking. Now he catches the ball in the backfield really well. He's been that guy, so you can kind of get extended run plays out of the the short passing game, but that's not necessarily exactly what he was brought in to do. Peyton Barber's got a slight turf toe injury right now, so he probably won't play. Josh Jacobs is trying to work himself back into form. So there's a lot of factors that play into it, but their run game has been poor, to just put it bluntly. It just has not been what it's supposed to be. They are trying to get it started. They need to get it started. With everything Derek Carr is doing, it'll be that much better if they can get that run game going. But as of yet, it hasn't really happened.
Time will tell, and we'll see on Sunday. I want to switch sides of the ball now because Bears fans are just yearning to see what this Justin Fields offense is going to look in its second week under Bill Lazor calling plays, hopefully for the remainder of the season. But what does the pass attack, or I should say the pass rush, look like for the Raiders? 9 sacks so far this year, plenty of names and some talent on that line. Will Justin Fields be under some duress this season? Oh my God, this Sunday.
Yeah, he should. He really should. And the Raiders are getting home a lot of times with their front four. Gus Bradley doesn't like to blitz that much. Now he will. He'll call the blitz. He'll dial it up. Sometimes it'll be a corner blitz as well. But Max Crosby, he's been, just phenomenal. Now he doesn't have necessarily like the sack numbers where he's leading the league or anything, but he's back there consistently pressuring the quarterback. He's always around the quarterback. Unique Ngakoue, he's not even 100%, and he's around the quarterback a lot. And then they got guys in the middle, and that's really what's so important. Last week, Darius Philon against Justin Herbert got a couple sacks from the, kind of up the gut. And that's where they've struggled for the longest, is getting that interior push. They're getting that now. They're getting a Max Crosby that's faster than he was last year. His rookie year, 10 sacks. He was a phenomenal 4th-round pick out of Eastern Michigan. It's like, oh, man, this guy's going to be a stud. Second year, took a step back, about seven sacks. This year, man, he just looks like he's firing off out of a cannon. He just looks so fast. So he's been a great, pleasant. I don't want to say surprise because you knew he had it in him, but he's been really stepping up. So he's become a leader of this defensive line. I think that they're going to continue to get that pressure, and the defense in general is a lot better than what we as fans have seen for years, really. I mean, even going back to 2016, the last time they made the playoffs, when they had Khalil Mack, they were not really a good defense, but they created a bunch of turnovers. This year, they're a really good defense under Gus Bradley, and so that's been nice to see. Last week, they got gashed by the run. Austin Eckler for the Chargers was able to run the ball on them a lot, but I think that they cleaned that up, and you'll see them really give their offense an opportunity to make some big plays and get the ball back for them at opportunity. So I think Justin Fields, now, he's going to be on the run a little bit, but that's what he does really well. So, I mean, I'll tell you this. I actually kind of was hoping Andy Dalton was going to get the start just because at least he's not going to run around the yard, worst case scenario. But here we are. It's, it's a couple days away from the game, and now Justin Fields is the guy, which obviously that was going to happen at some point. And for Bears fans, I know that very well, everyone's happy.
Yeah, it seems like everyone in the league wanted Andy Dalton to be the starter, so for one reason or another. But you talk about the run defense, how they stepped up a little bit. The Bears are going to be without David Montgomery for at least the next 4 to 5 weeks. They're using kind of a carousel there with Damian Williams and possibly Khalil Herbert, the rookie. Are there going to be opportunities for the Bears to run, much like you talked about Austin Eckler doing?
There is, I think, just because the Raiders, like I said, struggled on Monday night, but they've been doing pretty well against the run. I mean, they really have. Again, their defense in general has been playing some pretty good ball. So I think that was more of a one-off type game where he just kind of gashed them a lot. I think he went for 130 yards. That's just not what the Raiders have been doing, have been allowing that. I just think that they were out there on the field so much that they were just gassed and just exhausted, and he just went off on them. But I think you'll see the Raiders get back to a strong run defense and a strong defense in general. But they're still, nobody's perfect. They're not going to be lights out. They're not, the 85 Bears. They're not, it's not like that. I don't want to try to fool anybody. They're good. They're serviceable, and they're playing complementary football. So, yeah, I mean, there'll be times where the Bears, I think, will have good opportunities to make some moves, but losing David Montgomery for any amount of time, I think, is a big deal. That guy was a stud at Iowa State. I was a big fan of his then, and he to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, he seems like a Chicago Bear. I mean, he just seems like it's the mold of what a Chicago Bear running back should look like, at least in 2021. That's David Montgomery.
Dude never goes down on first contact, always keeps churning. He is the epitome of Chicago Bears football, and we hope that he gets back sooner rather than later. But last question for you before I send you over to Aldo. I want to know a little bit about these DBs for Vegas, because we saw the Bears for the first time throw the ball down the field a little bit with some extending the field with Darnell Mooney, getting Allen Robinson involved. They got speed with Marquise Goodwin, Demir Bird as well. Are there going to be opportunities to go down the field?
Yeah, the question I have is who's going to be the DBs that are going to be out there? That's really my biggest question. Casey Hayward, the longtime veteran in the league, he's playing really good ball. I mean, he's been great for the Raiders this year. One of the better DBs in the league, statistically, Pro Football Focus, and all that good stuff. He's been one of the best. Now, the other side is what I'm questioning. Trayvon Mullen, he left the game after about 6 snaps on Monday. He was carted off. He's got a foot injury. It hasn't been updated as far as how long he's going to be out. John Gruden did, he did kind of mention on Tuesday that there's some fear that there's guys that are going to be out for a long term. And when I think about that, I think of Trayvon Mullen, I think of Damon Arnett. Damon Arnett left the game after about 20 snaps with a groin injury. I'll say this, he's been bad anyway. So if he's out there, then the Bears would probably take advantage. They would look for him and say, where's he at? Let's throw at him. He's just been bad. There's a reason why he's coming off the bench. I mean, I'm not goofing on him. I'm just being real. Like, hey, man, he's just not playing good ball. Nate Hobbs, I'm sure you guys are very familiar with Nate Hobbs, being a guy out of Illinois, played for Lovie Smith in school. He was a 5th-round pick. He's been playing some good ball. I do like what he brings to the table. As a rookie, he doesn't seem like he's a rookie. He's been playing the slot a lot, but there's a chance he could kick outside if they need him. And then Amik Robertson came in. He's a little bit smaller, but he went up against Mike Williams and he held his own. So he doesn't have the size, but he's got the dog in him. So I think that, between Casey Hayward and Amik Robertson and Nate Hobbs, those are good starters to say. But as far as depth goes, they don't really have any right now, So it's really kind of, pick your poison. There's not really a whole lot of depth on the team in general, a lot of injuries right now. And so that secondary is really banged up. Trayvon Merrick, the safety, is a rookie 2nd-round pick out of TCU. And then John Abrams really playing that Cam Chancellor role up in the box, playing near the line of scrimmage. He's real physical, and he's really good at that. He's played a really good season. I think he found his little, where he should be on the field. Gus Bradley and them, they were able to figure that out. He's played well, and Trayvon Merrick, as I said, is a rookie, so he's kind of just working his way into it. So there's opportunities for sure to get off on the secondary if Justin Fields has some time to throw the ball.
That's what I like to hear. I think a lot of Bears fans like hearing that as well. I think we got a better grip on what this Vegas team brings to the table. Aldo, before we let your boy Q go, do you got any follow-up questions for him?
I do. A lot of chatter in the chat room about the Raiders' offensive line. We understand that there's some injuries involved and that the only player who has been consistently good is the left tackle, Colton Miller, who I met at the Senior Bowl. What a massive human being that guy is. And I suspect that he was going to be a good pro. But outside of him, tell us what's going on with this Bears offensive line. John Gruden, I think, said yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, he said that it's not time to push the panic button yet, but some people might be, huh?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. Raider Nation is definitely hitting the panic button because of what they saw on Monday night. The offensive line didn't play very well. They have not a rookie, but they have a brand new starter at the center position, Andre James, an undrafted guy out of UCLA. Then they had a right guard that they were excited about in Denzel Good. First game of the season, he goes down with a torn ACL. So now that's kind of been a rotating door on who's filling that void there, and it just hasn't been great. And then they got a rookie right tackle at Alex Leatherwood that, who knows, by Sunday might be playing right guard. I mean, it's kind of been like a puzzle piece that Tom Cable's been trying to put together, and it hasn't necessarily worked out the way he wants it to work out. Richie Incognito, he was supposed to be the left guard. He hasn't been there at all season. So they got a 4th round pick out of Clemson just a couple seasons ago, John Simpson holding it down. And I mean, if you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, and I'll tell you, I don't, my end all be all is not Pro Football Focus, but it gives you a good idea. Every one of their grades outside of Colton Miller was D or an F. You know, I mean, it was just bad. 48, 38, 33. You know what I mean? Just terrible grades. They're not playing well. They're not. And John Gruden said it, don't hit the panic button, but they also have to exhaust every option to try to get this thing to be better. Their offense could be really good, but if you can't block, you guys know it's about the trenches. If you can't block, you're not going to be successful. So it's going to be a huge test on Sunday for the Raider Nation and for the Raiders offensive line in general, man. I think the Raider fan base is going to be on the edge of their seat thinking, oh boy, you know, I don't know what's going to happen here. And, you know, again, who knows if Alex Leatherwood, the guy who was anointed as the right tackle the day they drafted him at number 17 overall, who knows if he's even going to be playing tackle on Sunday. He might be a guard. And then that kind of tells you where the team is, at least their offensive line.
Yeah. You know, there was this report by The Athletic months ago that the Raiders had inquired about Khalil Mack. What have you heard about that? Do you think there's truth to that? And do Raider fans really miss Mack? And I'm assuming the organization misses him if they indeed were making inquiries to Mack's availability.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. You know, Vic Tafer from The Athletic reported that, and Vic's one of the best in the business. So anything that he writes out there, I believe, is true. And I don't see why wouldn't they? You know, I mean, I know, and you guys know that the Bears were in a bad cap situation. And so why not give it a shot? You know, the worst that the Bears could say is no. You know, like, I mean, I've always said you're guaranteed to miss a shot you don't take. So they took the shot. The Bears said no, and they went out and got Unique Ngakoue. So that was kind of like their consolation prize. And I don't want to diminish what Ngakoue is, but I mean, I think that they did want Mack back, and if they could get him, they were going to pull the trigger on him. It just didn't happen. They knew that they needed to address the pass rush. That has been a problem ever since Mack's been gone, and it was a slight problem when he was there. You know, he was the lead dog, but there wasn't a whole lot of other. They brought Bruce Irvin in to be the other, and he was okay, you know. So they needed something. So they got Unique Ngakoue. He's been really good with Max Crosby. They've been a great 1-2 punch. Again, they don't have necessarily the sack numbers, but they've generated a ton of pressure. And quarterbacks that get pressure on them, they're going to make mistakes. And so they've given the opportunity to the Raiders to make some plays. The pass rush has been a pleasant surprise. Like I said, I thought Gus Bradley's defense was going to be good. I really did. I thought it was going to be a lot better than what we as fans saw from Paul Gunther. I just didn't think it was going to be that good that quickly. And I mean, they came out of the gates really good. So I think they have just enough veterans that have played for Gus Bradley before to kind of know what he wants. And so that's helped out a lot, like Unique Ngakoue, Casey Hayward, KJ Wright, Denzel Perryman, you know, guys like that, Darius Philon. You know, they just signed another young man off the Chargers practice squad, a DB. He played for Gus Bradley as well. I mean, there's guys sprinkled throughout the defense that have played for Bradley, so they know what he's looking for, they know what he wants, and that's helped in a major way. So, yeah, I think the pass rush has been really good. And if your offensive line is a little leaky, and I know that the Bears isn't exactly where it wants to be, it could be a long day for Justin.
My last question for you is Sean Desai, the Bears' new defensive coordinator, disciple of Vic Fangio, the head coach of the Denver Broncos. And Fangio, of course, was the defensive coordinator here with Chicago. So I went back to look at some of the games between the Raiders and Broncos and saw that not too long ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but that the Raiders posted 59 points on Vic Fangio's defense. Is that correct, or did I get that wrong? Was I?
No, I mean, it's happened. They've had success against Vic Fangio before, and I'm telling you, I respect the hell out of Vic Fangio. I don't know why it took him so long to become a head coach in the league. And then I thought Denver was going to move on from him really quickly. I'm glad that they gave him some extra time to get things in place. So I really respect him. And I knew when he left Chicago, I thought, oh, man, that's going to be a hit to the Bears. And then he went to Denver, and I was like, great. That's just what the Raiders wanted. Vic Fangio in the division. Why not? He's a hell of a defensive coordinator. But, yeah, they've had success against him. But, again, I mean, that's kind of – I don't really – put that all on his scheme and his system. I put it on where he was at, at what point in his career as a head coach he's been at. I kind of feel like, he's probably a lot better than that. And I don't really put that on Chicago. That's going to be a reference of what Chicago is going to look like. But I love me some Vic Fangio, man. And if he ever decides to be a defensive coordinator and Gus Bradley doesn't work out, I think there's a spot in Vegas that he could definitely work out at. He's a great defensive mind.
Excellent. Thanks.
I think there will be a home for him in Chicago too if it doesn't work out in Denver. Right. I think he'll have plenty of suitors. So,
yeah,
but we love ourselves some Vic Fangio as well. We hope it works out for him in Denver, and we keep him out of the NFC if he's not going to be with the Bears. So, your boy Q, before we cut you loose, can you please let our listeners and viewers know where they can catch your stuff, where they can read your stuff, or listen to you, and interact with you on social media?
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. My social media, I'm just on Twitter at your boy Q254. It's funny, I live in Las Vegas. I'm on Las Vegas radio, but I still got the 254 in my Twitter account, which is Central Texas area code. But hey, I mean, it is what it is. I'm just going to ride it out. It's what I do. But yeah, you can find all my work. I put out my podcast, the Locked On Raiders podcast, every single morning. So you want to catch up on what's going on with the Silver and Black, you can check that out. And then I do Raider Nation Radio, 920 every afternoon, 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I'm always on the grind. I'm always working, putting out work. So you can catch me up on me and see where I'm at on my Twitter account. That's always a tracking device. You can find me at your boy Q254. And I definitely appreciate y'all having me on the show again.
You bet.
Absolutely. Your boy Q, one of the best in the business, not just Raiders, but across the board. We love having you on. Thank you so much for taking some time and letting us know what the Bears are in store for against the Raiders this weekend.
Absolutely, man. Should be a fun game on Sunday at Allegiant Stadium. So I appreciate you guys again, and good luck with the season. Just start it next week.
We'll do our best, but we appreciate you. We'll talk to you down the road. Your boy Q, thank you so much.
All right, brother. Appreciate you guys.
Take care.
All right, we'll be back with more Buffone 55 after this.
The Barroom Network presents two fired up Bears fans. They are ready to rumble on the Bear Debate.
Welcome back to Buffone 55. I think we all understand the Las Vegas Raiders a little bit better now, thanks to your boy Q Aldo. That dude knows that team inside and out, doesn't he?
Yeah, he sure does. And I just really enjoy his style of how he presents his analysis, his opinions, and so forth. He's a really good broadcaster.
100%. But we broke the basement into two parts today. We had a little halftime, but we're going to jump right back into it. We were talking about Justin Fields starting, and we're talking about Matt Nagy. I need to get away from the Matt Nagy talk for a little bit. I just these veins in my neck can't take it right now. So let's move over to Justin Fields and how excited we are that he is going to be the starter moving forward. Although there's just so many things that he can do that, once again, I'm not here to just trash Andy Dalton because I think he's a good dude, but there's just so many things that he's capable of that I don't think Andy Dalton is capable of. What kind of spark do you feel Justin Fields brings this team, not just this week, but moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I think that the biggest spark is that he's going to create more explosive plays. more than any other quarterback in recent memory. Jay Cutler had his fair share of explosive plays, particularly when he had Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey as his receivers, and even Cutler's backup quarterback did very well with those guys. But we're going to see a return to that era of explosive plays because he's just so good and so accurate at those deep passes. And that is so huge in today's NFL. I think what a lot of coaches have kind of learned is that, these little quick passes and getting, 4, 5, 6, 7 yards on pass attempts isn't going to cut it because you're just going to run out of downs eventually. And so you need those 20, 30, 40 plus yard plays. And he delivered 4 of those on Sunday in only his second start. And that is outstanding. So I think that is first and foremost. And secondly, just his speed. When he was on that wildcat formation, he was lined up at the left wide receiver spot. I really thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if he went one-on-one? If whoever is at the wildcat position, wouldn't it be cool if they just told Justin Fields, go deep, man, and go one-on-one with the corner? So he could provide all sorts of things with his legs. And this is a new era in Chicago football. I'm so excited for him, for the Bears fans, and for Justin Fields. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear that I don't think anyone thinks that Justin Fields is going to go in there, and Bears fans or logical Bears fans are thinking that he's going to play perfect. There's not going to be any mistakes. This guy is going to be head and shoulders just an elite quarterback. No, that's not what I've been saying. That's not what Aldo's been saying. That's not what any of us have been saying. There are going to be rookie mistakes. However, the good outweighs the bad. We've seen him fumble, yes, but he's really good at recovering his own fumbles, apparently. And we've seen him sail a couple passes that some people really just want to magnify a couple of these throws and be like, oh, look, he's ready. And they don't pay attention to anything else. So there are going to be growing pains. That was going to happen whether it was week 2, week 6, week 8. His first actual regular season NFL games, there were going to be growing pains. If it was week 1 next year, it was going to happen because he had never taken a snap in the regular season of the NFL, or I should say been a starter in the NFL. So let's work it out now. All of the greats had growing pains in rookie seasons, sometimes even in their second seasons. Let's see it start now. Let's start watching the progression. I don't think that we can just keep this guy in a glass jar, and they're not doing this now, but I think this idea of keeping him in a glass jar and think, now he's ready. He is fully bloomed. Let's put him out there, and he's going to be an elite top 5 quarterback the second he steps onto the field. That's just not how human progression works. Right. You gotta put him out on the field and let him work through this stuff and let him make the mistakes and realize. And I think one of his greatest attributes is I think he learns from his mistakes. He sees what he does wrong and he fixes it. So let's see what he does now. He's not playing the Lions this week, so there might be some mistakes. He might have bad games this year. There could, against Tampa Bay or against San Francisco, he could have a bad game. But that's not a reason to say, oh, I told you Dalton should be in there. No, you let him work through that. He's going to play good defenses in his career. Let him understand what it works. So this whole bubble wrap approach, I just don't get. I think that you got to let him play. He's obviously mentally ready. That's the biggest thing. Is the guy mentally ready to play? I think he has been since week 1. Let's see him work through it and get to his highest potential.
Absolutely. And I think what is really important for the Bears as a team, the coaching staff, they made outstanding adjustments for the Lions game. They knew what they did wrong against Cleveland. You can't, go 5-5 against a great pass rush like the Browns had. They brought in a lot of double and sometimes triple tight end formations to help with the blocking. They dedicated to the run and so forth. So that the Raiders now are looking at what the Bears and Justin Fields put on tape against the Lions. And so they're going to strategize on how to stop those formations and how to stop that scheme. So now it's incumbent on the Bears and Justin Fields to make their alterations, for them to make their adjustments, and perhaps, we'll see more productivity from the tight ends in the pass game. Last week they did an awful lot of blocking. They were in essence the third and fourth tackles on a lot of plays, but now we need them to go out there and catch some passes, open up the middle of the field, and hopefully those will be some of the adjustments that we see, because the Raiders are already game planning on what they saw against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to a concern that I do have, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Not having David Montgomery in there, I think will play a little bit of a role, because Justin Fields, when in doubt, they can just say, all right, hand the ball to David Montgomery. Let's see what can happen. It's a great safety blanket to have. That's a great option to have when you have a great running back behind you. Hand the ball off, and then it takes the pressure off your quarterback from having to make all the plays. How much added pressure, if any, do you think now is on Justin Fields, knowing that it's Damian Williams back there?
Yeah, I think there is going to be some pressure. I mean, Montgomery was a great security blanket for the quarterback and the Bears offense as a whole. And it's finally great to see them have a commitment to the run game. And then unfortunately, Montgomery's hurt. But I think you're going to see, basically the same strategy with Damian Williams. You're going to see him get 15 to 22 carries in the game. And I think that's going to be there's got to be some productivity out of it. And the nice thing is that if Bill Lazor's calling the plays and they get some negative running plays, Bill Lazor's not going to give up on the run game. As long as the defense holds up and keeps the game close, there's going to be a commitment to this run game. And that's really important. And I think that you're going to see some also more planned Fields run plays, not just rely on him making the decision on RPOs, but also perhaps 2 or 3 designed runs for him. That's going to be an important part of the run game too. And by the way, Roy has a message for you here. I'm not sure you saw that.
Oh boy, here the Raiders have one of our local. That's true. Nick Bowers from Katanning. Yeah, a Penn State product, a really great high school player. Went to Penn State, really good athlete in a bunch of different sports. So there is a local connection for me in my small hometown with the Vegas Raiders. We'll see if he gets any playing time, but that's always great to see that that a kid from a small town can make it in the big time, especially going to a small town like Katanning, where if I said that, nobody nobody in their right mind outside of that area, if I said Katanning, would have any clue where that is. So that's always great to see. But getting back to what Justin Fields can rely on, one thing that you would like him to be able to rely on is the tight end position, but we're still not seeing Cole Kmet take that next step. Now, whether that's because of scheme and game plan or because of Kmet himself, I'm not sure. I really don't know. But I see a lot of people defending Kmet, saying, oh, he's becoming a great blocker and he's becoming an all-around good blocker on this. That's great too. I love to see that. However, if you're going to use the 43rd overall pick and your highest draft pick in 2020 on a guy and you're just hoping he turns out to be a good blocker, well, then we have a little bit of an issue. I have a little bit of an issue with that. So what would you like to see if Bill Lazor continues to be the play caller, Justin Fields continues to be the quarterback? Is this an opportunity to say, wow, we would love to get Cole Kmet involved a little bit. We'd love for him to be a safety blanket over the middle for Justin Fields.
Yeah, I truly believe that day is coming. I'm not sure it's going to be against the Raiders, but the day is coming where they're going to have a game plan where they're going to target Cole Kmet a half dozen to a dozen times. I think in watching film and helping Danny Sherman prepare for Bare Truth, what I have seen is when Cole Kmet usually runs out on a pass pattern, he is the safety valve. He is not the intended receiver. So he's the second or third, or in some cases the fourth option on pass plays. Now, sometimes we've gotten frustrated when it was obvious that he was the intended receiver and there was a lack of connection there. I mean, in the first game, he did catch 4 or 5 passes, but since then he's averaging one reception a game. And so there's been, understandably some frustration with Cole, because on the plays that he has been targeted for a pass play that is 10, 15 yards downfield. There just hasn't been that connection. So we want to see that happen. And I truly believe that it is going to happen. But whether it happens Sunday, it probably won't happen Sunday. And I'm just asking Bears fans to be a little bit more patient with Cole Kmet. He'll be okay.
8 catches for 59 yards. So that's not exactly what you're looking for. And especially when half of those came in week 1, that's averaging just a little over 7 yards per reception. I'm not giving up on Cole Kmet because, like I said before, I don't know how much of this is game planning. I also don't know how much of this is on Cole Kmet. It keeps burning into my mind how the narrative was a couple years ago, well, this Nagy system just isn't working because they need 2 really good tight ends, and everything revolves around the tight end in this offense. And if we can't, this offense just won't work because all we have is, Jesper Horsted and Ben Broniker and whoever else they were throwing out there, JP Holtz at the time. So, and then they go and they get Jimmy Graham and they get Cole Kmet, and they're just nowhere to be found. They retained Jimmy Graham for what, $8-9 million. It's one catch, one catch.
Right.
So I want to know why they're not involving the tight ends more.
So when you see a guy like Jimmy Graham only with 1 catch, that's scheme, just not being targeted enough. And I think it's simply because the offense has gone through a rough start in finding its identity. Here we go again with the freaking identity excuse. But I do believe that's part of the problem. What is heartening to see is that Fields has developed a really good relationship with Darnell Mooney. I mean, they've become really good friends. And those are, that's the kind of relationship I am all for, an explosive wide receiver who can outrun anybody in the defensive backfield. So that's good. And so if that relationship continues where we're getting explosive plays out of Darnell Mooney, that the tight end is next to follow because there's just going to be openings against every cover 2 defense, almost every single high defense that is leaves the middle of the field open. There's just going to be all sorts of opportunities for that tight end if we continue to hit on those long pass plays. So that's why I have a feeling that the tight end is going to be a part of the scheme moving forward.
Backing up your argument about it being scheme, Jimmy Graham 1 catch, but 3 targets. So that should really, that speaks volumes. And we're talking about that relationship that Justin Fields has built with Darnell Mooney, and that's great to see because that could be a really, really exciting combination to see for the years to come. That being said, I don't want to prognosticate too far into the future, but I love thinking long-term. And when you're a Bears fan, you have to think long-term because the present isn't always great. So let's talk about the future a little bit. If Darnell Mooney continues this trajectory and has a really great year with Justin Fields as the quarterback, and he goes on a hot streak and he finishes with he leads the team in receptions even, or maybe leads the team in receiving touchdowns, do you think that affects the Bears' viewpoint on re-signing Allen Robinson, who's under the tag right now, the franchise tag? If Darnell Mooney emerges and says, this guy can be our number 1, we don't need to necessarily pay you $16 million a year. We'll go maybe draft somebody or bring in somebody a little cheaper to be the 2. Do you think Darnell Mooney's ascendance could possibly impact Allen Robinson?
Yeah, I remember taking a look at what's available free agent wide receivers next year, and there isn't a really good crop available to replace Allen Robinson with a veteran. And I think that, you can't say that Darnell Mooney is playing great and that Allen Robinson doesn't have some part in that. He's going to get the attention of defensive backfields. So you still need a veteran wide receiver. Can Darnell Mooney be the number 1 wide receiver? Potentially, but I prefer to have a number 1 wide receiver who is a big target, who can go over the middle, take some punishment, get up, and he's going to play 15, 16, 17 games in the season. Darnell Mooney has not proven that yet. He didn't finish his rookie season. He still doesn't have the muscle and body physique, and probably never will, that you can feel confident he's going to play a 17-game regular season. So you need A-Rob on this team next year, and if you aren't able to sign him, I think really the part of the problem could be A-Rob's demands through his agent. I'm not blaming this completely on the Chicago Bears, but if indeed they do not re-sign A-Rob, you got to replace him with some kind of a reliable veteran wide receiver who can get open and can go over the middle and take the punishment.
And I don't disagree with you at all. I want to look at this. I'm looking at this from the business standpoint, though, where if because to your point, we've seen this before. Remember when the Steelers let go of Antonio Brown because they thought that Juju Smith-Schuster was going to be the end-all, be-all number one, and then it turned out whenever he didn't have a reliable number two, it didn't necessarily work out. But to your point, if Allen Robinson does hit free agency, and there aren't a lot of other free agent wide receivers out, he can demand the market then, because he can say, I'm the only game in town. I want 19 million. Someone will give it to me. I want 20 million. Someone will give it to me. And so he might price himself out of the Bears market where they're saying, we got Mooney. We got to try to allocate some money somewhere else and maybe not wrap up everything into Allen Robinson. And so they do let him walk just because he might be demanding too much money and someone may be willing to give it to him. If he is the top of the wide receiver free agent class, he can set the market and he can set it at a very high level given the fact that the salary cap's going to go up. So I'm not saying that they shouldn't try to keep Allen Robinson. I'm just saying that there are avenues there where I would say that there's more avenues that he walks rather than stays, whether he wants to leave or the Bears don't want to pay him or he gets a bigger offer from somebody else. I just think that there's more reasons for him to leave rather than to stay.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and Ravi points out the Jaguars still have a lot of cap space. They've got a young quarterback. A-Rob would be a great complement to a Lawrence. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think after this season, the leverage is going to go back to A-Rob because I don't think the Chicago Bears will franchise tag him for a second year because then you're talking about a $25 million 1-year contract, and that's a heck of a lot of money. If you can't sign him to a long-term contract where you can spread out the money over 3, 4, 5 seasons, then there's just no use in bringing him back. So I'm hopeful that both sides are going to reach some kind of agreement, and it could even happen. Well, no, the deadline for signing guys who are tagged has passed. So hopefully immediately after the season, those guys can sit down and hammer out a deal. But I'm afraid of losing A-Rob because I would love to see him help Justin Fields for the next 4 or 5 seasons of his young career.
Now, the only thing that could drive down his price is that he is on a trajectory to have some of his lowest numbers in a long time because of maybe targets or scheme or because of targets and scheme. But he's on pace to have some really low numbers. Now that can obviously jump up in a heartbeat. But nice. I'm just looking at the chat. Don't be a Debbie Downer on this great anti-Nagy day. You're right. I'm sorry. I should. This is like a holiday.
It is like a holiday.
Yeah, it is. But we can talk about that as the season progresses. I just thought that you see Darnell Mooney have a career day like that and what it could mean for the future of the receiving core, but that will be I guess that will be determined later on after the season, which is still is not for a long time. We're still only in week 5 of a 17 game season. So Aldo, I want to present you the question that I kind of got asked in the last of my B55s was, in all due respect, we kind of predicted the Bears to be 2-2. You look at the schedule, they said, okay, they're going to beat the Bengals and they're going to beat the Lions, and they're probably going to lose to the Rams, and they're probably going to lose to the Browns. All of that happened. So in theory, everything went chalk as if what we predicted. Now, there are some nuances and some caveats and some context there that needs to go through, like having one of the worst historical losses ever to the Cleveland Browns. But where they are now, I know that you thought this would be a playoff team. Do you still think that this is a playoff team?
I do. And, it's interesting because right now this Chicago Bears team is a different team than we were talking about in preseason. Jason Peters was not on this team, the left tackle, a week before the season started, right? And so there's just the whole complexion of the team has changed now with Bill Lazor calling the plays, and so there's going to be more reliance on a rushing attack. So we're almost talking about a totally different team in the preseason. The good news is that the defense appears to be back to dominating the line of scrimmage, and hopefully Akeem Hicks doesn't have a long injury and can get back in there and play some significant snaps so that we can have his power at the defensive line of scrimmage. So if we can get the defense to get closer to that 2018 defense than as opposed to the 2020 defense, then yeah, I think, at least then you've got a 500 football team. So then if you can add the explosive offense that Justin Fields could potentially bring, and I do believe that in the second half of the season, we may be seeing a guy tossing, 2-3 touchdown passes a game. So there's a chance here that this team could end up 10-7, and that's definitely a team combating for the playoffs. So I'm still hopeful. Now, I know you love to make fun of my
put up the spaceship graphic. There they are, the spaceships launching off the helmets. I love that.
But when you went through the schedule, I think this game, week 5, is so important, because if you can get to above 500 before meeting the Packers, and then you've got a 2-game winning streak for that home game against the Packers, perhaps you can steal one. I mean, the Packers are not really scaring anybody, and the Bucs have certainly looked like they're not the same Bucs from the second half of last season, and we beat them last season. So there's that possibility. And then there's that week 9 game. I'm skipping over the week 8 game, as you notice. But that week 9 game is almost a guaranteed win. And I hate to say that.
I'm going to that game, Aldo. Don't say that.
But it is possible that come the bye, this team could be 2 or 3 games above 500, and that would be really, really sweet.
Yeah, now I know that I said that I think the running backs can hold serve, and I think they can. I don't think that where they're at right now is going to win you any games. Like, I think that David Montgomery can win you games. So when I think of there's never a good time for David Montgomery to get hurt, but this especially is a bad time because they're coming up on that gauntlet where they're coming up on the Green Bays and the Tampa Bays and the San Franciscos. And it would be great to be able to establish a run game against some of those teams. And unfortunately, it might be all on Justin Fields' shoulders. So, John Smith, what a great comment. At least we got to lose another wild card game. Oh, I'm so with you. I am so with you. I'll be there at the parade with you, tossing out, neutral tasting candy, and they'll raise the banner that says, "Hey, we kind of were okay, 2021. I cannot wait for the parade of mediocrity, and we can just all revel in the fact that the Bears they maximized their potential and they were pretty good." So, and that's what they can. That's the highest of their potential. Their highest potential is to be pretty good. But that's neither here nor there. Let's try to keep it positive, like the other guy said. Let's try to keep it positive. But I would like to have David Montgomery in that gauntlet of the next 4 games out of the 6 weeks. But it's not. So we'll see. And I would love to see this team go 10-7. I don't see it. I know we want to downplay Tampa Bay. They don't look as good. Green Bay's not scaring anybody. Who the hell are the Bears scaring? Right. They're not going to be favored. They might be favored. Maybe not. They might not even be favored against Pittsburgh because it's in Pittsburgh. That might be a pick'em game. So they're not going to be favored in any of the next 6 games. Mm-hmm. It'll be hard. So I don't know. I think that it's just so hard to put it. It's just so hard to get a read on this team sometimes. And I've said that in weeks before, where it's just like, I think I'm so mad at the fact that they're consistently inconsistent. Mm-hmm. I just hate the fact that I can never get a beat on this team. I don't know what their identity is, and I hate using that word. But it's just we can never just get a really good feel for this team. So hopefully they can prove us all wrong, get an identity, and be consistent with Justin Fields there and Bill Lazor calling plays. maybe they do become more consistent, and they start maximizing some of that talent they have, because it's not like they have a bunch of bums. They're not a team full of tomato cans. They have playmakers on this team that can win you football games. Let's see if they can actually maximize that potential. But that's probably about to go ahead.
Before we say goodbye to people, Tareen Whitfield just posted in the chat room that Shane Marsaw's son, who we've learned has cancer, went through 9 hours of chemotherapy today. So we're sending our best wishes for everyone here at the Barroom Network is sending our best wishes to Riley Marsaw. We know you're going to come through. There's been some excellent signs on his progress against this terrible disease. And so get well real quick, Riley, and get back out there on the football field and have fun.
100%. All pulling for you. Thoughts, good thoughts, prayers, all of that going that way to that. Not just to Riley, but the entire family as well. So we're thinking about you. But Aldo, that will wrap up this edition of Buffone 55. Appreciate you filling in again. We had a lot of good fun. We went off the rails here. We just switched up the entire shape of this show today, and it was fun. You know what? Chaos can be fun. So that's why we're Bears fans. We love the chaos. So do you want to give us a rundown of what's going on in the Barroom Network before we get you out of here?
Indeed. We've got a new Pass the Mic coming out tomorrow where Peggy Kaczynski talks to a young woman named Annika, teenager who is really impressing people on the golf course. And so we're going to get her take on what the challenges are of a young athlete. So that's going to be fun. And then Mike North and I will be on tomorrow morning, a half hour earlier than normal. We'll be on at 9 a.m. Mike's got a business appointment later in the morning, so we'll get his take. I'm sure he's going to bring up Mitchell Trubisky's name about half dozen times tomorrow, but we'll get his take on what he thinks about the Justin Fields. And Mike usually has a good betting tip or two by the end of the show. So that'll be around 10 o'clock. The show starts at 9 a.m. Central. And then tomorrow night, we have Bare Truth. Danny Schimmon is going to focus the entire show on Justin Fields to get a look at what he did right, what he did wrong against the Detroit Lions, and maybe even go back a little bit and take a look at some of that Cleveland tape. But he's identified about 10 plays that he's going to analyze for us. And so it's going to be a really good discussion about Justin Fields. And that's the schedule for the next 24 hours.
Excellent. And I'll just let everybody know to tune in to Bear Football directly after the Raiders game. We'll give you raw emotions one way or the other. Also, the Bear Debate every Tuesday. Tyler Ellis and myself going round for round to the 10 of the hottest topics going on with the Chicago Bears. We get a little combative, but it's all in good fun. A really fun new show that Aldo is a part of as well. He's the referee tearing us apart there. And, of course, Buffone 55 every week breaking down the Bears' upcoming opponent. We always appreciate everyone jumping in. And I see that someone said that my mom just jumped into the chat room here. So much love to you, Mom. Mama Bear there, keeping it down. Always support me. Appreciate that. But that will do it for this edition of Buffone 55. Like I always say, whether it's your first time or your 55th time, I appreciate you all tuning in. We'll see you next time right here on Buffone 55 on the Barroom Network.